Welcome to Popcorn Planet. It's Kim, and I am here for the Diddy recap of the trial. It is day 22, and off we go. We've got lots to go through today, and seriously, this is probably my longest document of notes to date of everything that happened today. So strap in, get yourself a drink, get yourself some water, snack, whatever, and get comfy. All right, so before the jury came in, this section is the longest it's ever been. Prosecutor Maureen Comey told the court that the government may rest its case as early as next Wednesday, June 18th, but no later than Friday, June 20th. She named 2 additional witnesses that prosecutors may question on Thursday, which they did not get to, spoiler alert, and a summary witness who will be presenting some records to the jury. Before jurors came in, the lawyers were debating more text messages that the defense attorney, Tani Garagos, or is it Teeny? I'm not sure, Garagos, wants to show the jury. Those messages are between Diddy and Jane. This will be Jane's 6th day on the stand, and attorneys have a hard deadline today that they had to finish their questioning because she has an international flight to catch. Comey argued that by December of 2023, after Cassie's lawsuit became public, Diddy was aware of like this was going on. So he knew about the lawsuit, and then he started to kind of change what he was doing. So he started recording his communications with Jane. He's recording them. And he may have been crafting a self-serving false narrative in the recording. The judge ruled that because of that, the recording could not be admitted, but Garagos may ask why. Jane told Diddy about her awareness and all those types of things. So they said, you can talk about it, but we're not playing it. All right. Then there was a lengthy back and forth about a note that Jane wrote in 2023, 1 or 2 sentences that the government really wanted to admit as evidence. And those sentences were, I did feel forced and taken advantage of. Jane wrote this in her notes app about hotel nights, or FOs. I felt obligated 98% of the time. Now, during this evidence discussion among the lawyers, it was implied that he was recording the conversations, Diddy was recording the phone conversations to throw Jane off of the scent. She also talked about on these messages that she felt like parts of Cassie's lawsuit were exactly like her life. Again, more arguing about these audio files. And we were still waiting to hear from the judge about the juror that we thought was getting thrown off of the panel. We still don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I don't know. They said they'd handle it before the end of the week, so we should find out tomorrow, but I have no update on that. And then the judge, lead counsel, and Jane's attorney left, and they went into the robing room. The last time this happened was when they talked about the juror. But I don't know why Jane's attorney would be going in about the juror. So we all were kind of going, what is going on? At this point, Diddy had been talking intensely with 3 of his lawyers while the other attorneys, prosecutors, and Jane's attorney were not in the room. Diddy's sister, Keisha, was in the courtroom. And when the lawyers returned from the robing room, Comey walked over to her team, smiled, and shrugged her shoulders. And then Agnifilo, Shapiro, Steele, Westmoreland, and Donaldson all huddled to speak with Diddy, who was gesturing with his hands. Jane's lawyer was conferring with some of the prosecuting attorneys. The lawyers that were in the back returned. Oh, sorry, that was a duplicate. The judge did not say what was discussed when the lawyers had left. At that point, I believe they went out again and came back in. It was just absolutely ridiculous. The judge has been trying to keep this lengthy trial on a tight schedule. The fact that so much time has been dedicated to whatever was discussed in this robing room piqued a lot of interest. Diddy appeared visibly upset and was very animated during the court's extended break. He appeared to be talking passionately, lots of hand movement. At one point, he appeared to be tapping his fingers sequentially, like he was making a list of talking points. So like 1, 2, 3. His lawyer stood sober-faced and attentive as he spoke. At this point, the jury still hadn't entered the courtroom, And we were running an hour and a half behind. An hour and a half. It was absolutely crazy. Mark Agnifilo then made an Usain Bolt style arm gesture in the courtroom. Other defense attorneys were laughing. Diddy cracked himself a smile. Prosecutors were huddled. The audiovisual engineer was called to the courthouse to set up special headphones for lawyers to listen to evidence. And it was quoted, it was a roller coaster on the courtroom floor, and no one quite knew what was happening. Agnifilo then asked to put on the record the defense's objection to the ruling that the judge made in the robing room, that nobody knows what it is. At that point, the judge then offered to clear the courtroom so they could discuss this matter openly for Diddy to hear, but Agnifilo said that that would not be necessary. Agnifilo emphasized the importance of a public trial, noting that public proceedings can prescompt, I believe is the word, members of the public to come forward with additional information and events described in court. He briefly then referenced an encounter that Jane described in January of 2024 in a hotel room. Jane had testified on direct examination that when she was separated from Diddy in January of 2024, she traveled to Las Vegas with an unnamed rapper. Please remember the rules of the chat, everyone. And his friends for a birthday celebration. During that night, the group watched a woman have relations with an entertainer known as Antoine. Jane said she never had relations with Antoine outside of her hotel nights with Diddy. But when she and Diddy reconciled, Diddy accused her of cheating. Agnifilo argued that the identities of those present at the 2024 hotel room encounter should be revealed at trial. So Diddy wanted to out the name of the rapper at this party. And this is what they were potentially fighting about that whole morning. Comey countered that naming the individuals would be an attempt to harass or intimidate Jane. Agnifilo claimed it could lead to new witnesses. So at this point, everyone is losing their mind because we're asking, who is it? Please do not speculate in the chat. Are they going to be called to the stand? What is happening? Now, the judge said that his ruling stands, noting that the January 2024 encounter is not among the alleged acts connected to the ST charges in Diddy's indictment. So to be clear, the judge ruled against unmasking a mysterious, famous rapper. So the prosecution's against it. The judge said no. And in all honesty, it doesn't really have to do with the ST charges. So I understand that logic, but that has been blocked. And Diddy really wanted everybody to know. He really wanted everybody to know. From the looks of it, at least. At that point, Jane then returned to the stand. And testimony started nearly 2 hours behind schedule. So when Garagos picked up the cross-examination, she started it around December of 2023, after Cassie's civil lawsuit was filed. Jane said she and Diddy were in contact around that time, but it was a difficult period for both of them. We were both equally pulled in our own emotional battlefields, like every which way, she testified. She said she had hit a wall in the relationship, and there was a lot for me to wrap my head around. And she was expressing her feelings to him while he was simultaneously under fire for a lot of things. Jane confirmed that around this time, Diddy told her that he was not aware of how she had been feeling, even though she had been texting him and telling him that. We literally have, it's been submitted in court. She testified that he was sorry that she felt that way and didn't want her to feel like that anymore. At the time, you believed him, right? Garagos asked. Yes, I did, Jane responded. And from that period on, Jane said that Diddy started encouraging her to be more communicative with him. All right, just want to make sure. Here we go. Garagos then revisited this January 2024 Las Vegas trip. Jane confirmed she went on the trip with her friend and that they flew on a rapper's private plane. She said Diddy was unaware of the trip because they were on a break at the time. Garagos asked if the rapper was an icon in the music industry and very close to Diddy, and Jane agreed. The word iconic and icon I saw multiple times through reporting today. This is a rapper people know. She confirmed the trip was for a birthday of the rapper's girlfriend or wife. She also confirmed that the rapper was close to Diddy professionally and personally. The mysterious famous rapper also told Jane that he had a crush on her and wanted to blank her, was what we were told. I'm sure we can imagine. According to the testimony, Jane also said that at one point during the party, she flashed her chest to the room. Jane testified that while they were in the hotel room, the rapper and his partner asked if she knew anyone else in the lifestyle. And she said she reached out to entertainer Sly because at the time I thought Sly was a safe person to recommend. Garagos asked Jane why the couple asked her that. Jane responded that it was possible they already suspected that she and Diddy were involved in similar activities, or they could have just picked up that energy from her. Jane then recounted a birthday celebration Diddy planned for her in Miami in February of 2024. It was the first time that they were together in person since breaking up in October of 2023. Diddy planned a 5-course meal at the property next to his Miami residence and covered the table with gifts and decorations. Jane testified, and she described the romantic gesture as everything she's always wanted from her relationship. They then took X after the dinner. Jane acknowledged that she told the defense in a pretrial meeting that she was willing to have relations with an entertainer in front of Diddy later that night because Diddy did everything that she wanted for her birthday. She also testified she realized that this was just going to be a forever thing with Diddy, referring to the encounters with entertainers. The jury also saw texts between Jane and an entertainer, Paul, on February 10th, when she asked Paul if he had plans on Valentine's Day. Jane confirmed that she noticed positive changes in Diddy after Cassie's lawsuit was filed. Isn't that, amazing? She testified that they had some growth in their relationship after they got back together. She said, I felt like I could assert myself a little more. She confirmed that Diddy acted more loving towards her and spent quality time with her. He was more affectionate and would regularly call her his girlfriend. And yesterday we heard that she texted him, I know you don't like that word. But the word is now here. Garagos seems to be hoping that this line of questioning would allow them to enter into evidence a phone call where Diddy lovingly expresses that he was not aware that Jane was unhappy. And that I believe that may have been the phone call we talked about earlier, that the judge was like, no. There was a lot of back and forth today about some of these pieces of evidence, guys. It was a lot. It was a lot. Then they returned to May of 2024, when CNN published the 2016 surveillance video of Diddy and Cassie. Jane confirmed that she was shocked to see the video, and she had never seen Diddy act like that before. Garagos asked if Diddy tried to get into a program to address his actions in the video, and Jane said that she recalled that. Prosecutors objected when Garagos suggested that the program didn't accept him. The attorneys then went to a sidebar. After the sidebar, Garagos moved on from the question about the program. Jane confirmed that months after the video first came out was a difficult time for Diddy. Now, we're going to get into what I'm going to say is a very violent altercation, and we're going to be talking about this for a bit. So, mods, I know we have our support document if you wish to share that with everyone. Just please take care of yourself. I can only censor so much, but this is going to be disturbing at points. Jane then testified about the argument they had on the night of June 18th, 2024. Garagos began questioning by highlighting the magnum size of the champagne bottles they drank that day, which Garagos said was twice the size of a normal champagne bottle. She estimated by the time that the argument began, they had each already consumed 2 shots of tequila and at least 2 glasses of champagne. Jane confirmed that the woman that they were arguing about lived in Miami and was able to spend more time with Diddy because of her proximity. She also confirmed that she and Diddy had argued about this woman before. I think it was just a ball of emotions that night, she said. There was a lot of resentment for so many things. She confirmed that she did call Diddy a PDF, even though the woman that she was referring to was not underage, but was like 25 years his junior. So that was, I think that's why she ended up there. It's not the same thing, but she was upset and obviously under the influence. She also called him disgusting and a monster. When she felt like the fight was escalating, Jane went into her bedroom, locking the door. Garagos asked Jane to confirm that Diddy had not touched her at this point, but kept saying, "Are you just not going to talk to me?" When he kicked open the master bedroom door, she locked herself in the master bathroom. She yelled at this point that she hated him and wanted him to leave and leave her alone. Jane recalled Diddy saying that I was crazy, just a lot of yelling, like you're not going to talk to me. When Diddy kicked open the bathroom door, she locked herself in the closet. Jane slipped out of a tight dress she was wearing and put on a loose dress that she could put on quickly. She was not able to change her strapped high heels before Diddy kicked the door open too. Jane ran downstairs heading for the door, but Diddy caught up with her and kicked her in the back of the leg, causing her to fall to the floor. Diddy then pulled her up to her tippy toes, you know, holding her neck, and she could not breathe. Garagos asked her to confirm that she previously told the government that she couldn't breathe, and she said yes. Referencing Jane's previous direct testimony, Garagos asked her to confirm the videos that she took the days the altercation showed injuries around her face but no marks on her neck, and Jane agreed. Jane left the house and hid outside for a couple of hours before returning to her home, she testified. Jane confirmed that when she got back to the house, she was still very upset. She confirmed she brought up the woman that they had been arguing about again, and again called Diddy a PDF, even though the woman was not underage. Jane testified that she and Diddy went onto the patio area and she struck Diddy in the head. He then struck her twice in the eye and on her forehead, she said. At this point, we're breaking for lunch. The judge dismissed the jurors, and as the jurors filed out, the judge asked the prosecutors and Combs's legal team and lawyer Jane, the lawyer for Jane, to meet him behind closed doors. So we had another, they all left. They just left, and we're all asking, like, what is going on? My goodness. They seem to be continuing the morning discussion about naming the rapper who accompanied Jane in the trip of 2024. The judge originally suggested that they have the discussion in the robing room. The lead defense said, "I'm sorry, Judge, I prefer to do this in the presence of my client," and thus sidebar happened in the courtroom. It's just, again, they're just, so they're out, they're in, they're sidebars, they're out, they're in, and it is all about what is going on with this name. They just want this name exposed. After lunch, the defense is setting up headphones for the jury, possibly so they can play voice messages as evidence. I believe there were some videos shown and audio files shown. At that point, basically only the jury would hear it, the defense, the prosecution, the rest of the courtroom did not. Now, Garagos continued to question Jane after lunch about the June 18th, 2024 altercation between her and Diddy. At some point, after Diddy struck Jane, she got a hold of his phone and called the woman she believed was on a recent family trip with Diddy. The woman told Diddy that she was worried about the wrong things and shouldn't be panicking, Jane testified. The two women traded insults on the phone, and when Jane said, "He's beating my butt," censored, right now, Diddy hung up the phone. It appeared that the woman called Diddy back more than once after that, but he didn't pick up. Jane then said Diddy FaceTimed his assistant, Jonathan, so the assistant could tell Jane that no other women were on the family trip. Jane then got into the shower, and Diddy followed her in. She was undressed, but he was still wearing pants, she testified. Jane confirmed that she was still calling Diddy names, including a fraud, a B word, a PDF, while they were in the shower. He then slapped her very hard in the face, she said. She confirmed that she continued calling him names, and then the violence continued in the shower. Jane confirmed that Diddy asked why she struck him, why she attacked him. We never fought like this before, and now you attack me, Jane said. At this point, I was just reaching my breaking point in the relationship. Now, at some point during that June 18th altercation, after they had stopped yelling, Jane says Diddy told her to put on her lingerie outfit. Diddy used her phone to text the entertainer Antoine to see if he could come over. Diddy also saw earlier texts in Jane's thread with Antoine in which the entertainer referenced their mutual friend. Jane said it was nothing at the time. She slipped into sweatpants and drove her car to let Antoine into the gated community. Jane testified that she, Diddy, and the entertainer made small talk before heading to the bedroom. She said Diddy then gave her a look and pulled her aside into the guest bedroom. Diddy demanded to know and have Jane explain what Antoine meant by their mutual friend in a text message, because as far as Diddy knew, Jane and the entertainer did not have any mutual friends. Jane then told Diddy about this Las Vegas trip with the unnamed rapper, which led to the hotel encounter where Antoine had relations with another woman. She said she did not tell Diddy about the brief moment from that night where she showed her chest, or that she had given the rapper Sly's information. Jane confirmed that Diddy was outraged, saying, "How could you go to another man's freak off? How could you make me look like that in front of Paul?" Then they went into the bathroom. Diddy got in her face and told her to take an X pill. When Jane told him that she didn't want to have relations with Antoine, Diddy got in her face and said, "Is this coercion?" They eventually went into the bedroom where Jane performed an act on the worker. Jane and Diddy did not have intimacy after this session, which Jane confirmed was not typical of these encounters. In the days after the June 2024 altercation with Diddy, Jane and Diddy missed each other, and she ended up going to his house for a couple of days, she testified. "It seemed like he was proposing the idea of breaking up, and I was just listening to him," she said. "It was like 8 or 9 hours of that breakup conversation." She confirmed that they took substances and they had relations during those days, without any entertainers. Jane was on board with the breakup once she saw that Diddy was in Wyoming with another woman around July 4th. She blocked him and his associates until later that month, when she reached out after seeing that his mother was sick. At that point, the jury saw a video. The courtroom did not. We don't know what happened in that video. But Diddy was having problems with his headset, leading him to first try the listening device of the defense lawyer Brian Steele, and when that didn't appear to work, Diddy shared a headset with Agnifilo. So they both had like the headset going. I think it's a funny image to have in my brain. The jury then saw a series of tweets from July of 2024 when Jane and Diddy talked about their relationship, many of which came out during Jane's previous testimony on direct examination. According to these messages, Diddy told Jane that they should just be friends with no beef, and Diddy said she disrespected him by going to his friend's FO. Jane told Diddy in many texts that she wasted 3 years of her life with Diddy in hotel rooms, and she also said, "Please stop acting like I didn't shelf myself to be just only your girl." In one text, Jane told Diddy, "At least say you understand that it wasn't cool to have me just doing hotel nights and everyone got private jets all over the world. I don't even have anything post-worthy from our relationship." They often spoke by text and on the phone about their relationship in July of 2024. At one point, Jane texted Diddy, "My dumb A thought that if I effed more and did hotels, I'd finally get a trip." And then at the end of July, they planned a trip to visit Diddy in Miami. They stayed at the Four Seasons. She said her and Diddy generally had a good time at the Four Seasons. She had previously testified that at one point during the Miami trip, she told Diddy that she was tired and wanted to go to sleep. She said he got agitated, splashed water on her, called her a B word, and then apologized. Garagos asked Jane if she had first told the prosecutors this story on June 1st, just a few days before she began her testimony. Jane agreed and said it was a new memory. She confirmed that at one point at the hotel, she told Diddy that she had missed Paul. But Jane also testified that she had taken X when she said that. But she did genuinely miss Paul at that moment. She ended up calling Paul, who said he'd meet them in Miami in a few days. Jane confirmed that she had relations with Paul a few days later at Diddy's Miami home when she took a different type of substance. Garagos asked if Jane felt in control and if it was a great experience, and Jane agreed. She confirmed that she described the night to be a love fest. Jane testified that they ended the Miami trip with a fight about another woman, but they continued talking. In text messages after the summer trip, Jane and Diddy talked about seeing a therapist, the jury heard. They discussed that they loved each other so much, but all the toxic stuff was still coming up. Garagos asked Jane to confirm that she saw Diddy one more time in Miami in August before his September 2024 arrest, and that the trip ended on a more positive note. It was okay, Jane said, but she confirmed that she told the defense in a pretrial meeting that the trip ended on a positive note. We're coming to the end of the defense team's cross-examination of Jane, and Garagos started zeroing in on the end of the couple's relationship, a period of breakups and link-ups spanning July through September and the month of Diddy's arrest. The jury was then dismissed for a brief break, and Comey was due to do the redirect next. Now, during this break, Diddy grabbed, apparently, a handful of tissues, dabbed his eye before walking out of the courtroom. Now, NBC reported that it wasn't immediately clear if the defendant was briefly overcome with emotion or if he was suffering from a more natural irritant, which they then linked to the Weather Channel. So I'm assuming it's like allergies. That made me laugh today. It was good. Now, before Jane's last round of questioning, lawyers once again debated whether a note she wrote on her phone in late 2023 can go into evidence. The one that said that she felt obligated 98% of the time. And Comey really fought for it. The judge denied it. He was sympathetic to the defense's argument, and that was out. So basically, Diddy didn't get the unnamed rapper, and the prosecution didn't get that note today. They both lost. Then the redirect started. Comey referenced the messages between Jane and Diddy from June of 2022. I know what you want, baby. I'm not really in the mood for that part, Jane texted him. Don't want to make you mad. Jane testified that he had been hinting that he wanted an intimate night, but she didn't want to make him upset. That's usually the response I get from him when I decline those things, she said. All good, Diddy responded in the messages. Comey then showed Jane an exchange she had never seen before between Diddy and Paul. Diddy texted Paul, I'm gonna need you to persuade her. If she hears from you, we in. Comey revisited text messages Jane had sent to the entertainer Paul after the March 2023 trip to Turks and Caicos, when she ended a second hotel night early after they'd been with an entertainer for 24 hours. She told Paul that Diddy didn't make her feel like a human being. She also wrote, it had been 24 hours with no breaks for me, and at first I was going with the flow for the second link up, but I had warned him that I just felt overwhelmed to perform, and for a moment I've never done before. I'm not a robot. I'm just a mix of tired, hungry, sleepy, sore. Comey asked why Jane sent Diddy affectionate messages after the Turks trip, if it was so disappointing. And Jane testified that there was a confusing cycle of Diddy showering her with love and affection and with all the adult exploitation in between. I was just able to compartmentalize all the bad stuff, she said. All of the loving messages are just me focusing on all the good parts of us. Jane would then also fake finishing with the entertainers during these hotel nights, she testified. She said, I was putting on a show, and she would sometimes send an entertainer a positive message about their time together to make them feel good. I didn't want them to feel used, she said. Comey then asked Jane if she could remember the specific date of every hotel night through their entire relationship. Jane said no. Comey then asked if Jane wanted to remember every single hotel night with Diddy. She said, I wish I could forget them. Comey asked Jane why she brought up the hotel nights to Diddy when they had discussions about other women in his life. She said, what I was trying to express every time I brought up women was why. Why do I have to be degraded in order to be with you? Jane said, becoming emotional. Why do I have to break all my boundaries and compromise myself, but they don't have to, and they can still experience you in the way that I want to? Jane said she started telling Diddy she didn't want to do hotel nights in 2021, but became more vocal about it in 2023. She testified that at that time of the sobriety party in 2023, Diddy had been paying her rent for several months. And she said in the months before the sobriety party, Diddy would often bring up her rent within the context of hotel nights and had threatened to stop paying her rent in all different types of ways. Comey revisited several messages Jane sent Diddy the day before the sobriety party. Some of the messages said, I don't want to be mistreated. I don't feel like performing loveless, cold relations. I am not an adult star. I am not an animal. I need a break. I don't want to do anything. I've hit a wall. It's been 3 years of me having to do things with strangers. I'm tired. Intimacy is sacred to me, and I can't be used like this anymore. I just wanted to make you happy, but it is creating a war inside me. I need a break. I can't be in another hotel room doing substances and performing exhausted relations for days. Comey then asked if Diddy was vulnerable or affectionate with her the night of June 18th, when she said Diddy hurt her and then forced her to perform on an entertainer. Jane described Diddy's demeanor as evil. Jane testified earlier that Diddy was vulnerable with her during hotel nights and most affectionate with her during those nights. Comey then asked Jane about her injuries from that altercation. She recounted that she had a black eye forming, a bruise on her leg, and 3 welts on her head. How do you compare in strength to Sean? Comey asked, and she said, I don't back. Comey returned to cross-examination when Garagos pointed out that there weren't visible marks on Jane's neck in the videos taken after the day of the June 18th incident. Jane used her arm to show the jury how Diddy would put her in, he would hold her back, but with his arm around her neck, not his fingers. Comey repeatedly asked Jane if Diddy could have left safely at various points through the night, such as when she locked herself in different rooms or was curled up in a ball in the yard. And each time, Jane responded, yes. Comey asked if Jane would give back all the money for the gifts she received from Diddy if it meant she never had to have relations with another man during their relationship. Yes, Jane responded. When asked, Jane said she had no financial stake in the outcome of this trial and is not expecting to receive any compensation for her testimony. Comey then asked Jane why she was testifying at the end of the trial, and Jane said, because I was subpoenaed and I'm here. And then we ended up back in the Recross. The whole day, guys. The whole day. On Recross examination, Garagos asked Jane a series of questions about the night of June 18th in 2024. We're back there again. Jane confirmed that she never told Antoine that she didn't want him to come in or that she didn't want to engage in activities with him. When asked, Jane confirmed that she knew Diddy was the subject of a federal investigation at that point and had a criminal lawyer representing her. Garagos referenced Jane's response on redirect that she would give all the money and the gifts back if it meant she never had to have relations with other men during her relationship with Diddy. You were not willing to give up your home, right? Garagos asked. That's where me and my child live, Jane responded. That's a very hard question to answer. You wanted to stay in the home you and your child lived in, Garagos asked. I was in the position. It was a very hard question, Jane said. When asked, Jane said that she regularly makes $10,000 a month on OF, but her best month, she made $50K. Garagos suggested that Jane could afford her own rent. Jane said that she was catching up on 3 years of debt. Garagos also confirmed that Diddy gave her more than $150,000 in addition to paying her rent in the 3 years they were involved. Is that all I'm worth in 3 years? Jane said, then eventually answering, yes, he did give me that. Garagos asked, did you want more than that? She replied, do you think I'm worth more than that? Garagos asked, I'm asking if you want more than that, and Jane said no. Garagos then asked Jane if she saw Diddy a few times in the weeks after the sobriety party in October of 2023, including when she gifted him a portable TV for his birthday. Sorry, just getting a phone call. There we go. Sorry. When she gifted him a portable TV for his birthday so he could watch adult movies or videos from their past hotel nights during their movie nights. Jane said that she gave him a TV so she could protect herself from not having to have relations with other men. Garagos suggested that there were several times Jane wouldn't have relations with entertainers through their movie nights, and she responded, all of it was poop. The judge then told Jane that she needed to answer the questions that were asked. Jane's marathon testimony finally came to an end, with her leaving the witness statement after answering the prosecutor's question about the violence she endured. He slapped me and he punched me, she said. And on her way out of the courtroom, she then hugged Prosecutor Comey and Garagos. And we were all like, what? Why? What just happened? Like, I'm confused myself. I don't quite understand. And I mean, part of this cross was just absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. So the jury was then dismissed and testimony would continue tomorrow. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go over to Inner City. I'm going to reload here. This was what was going on. Okay, cool. We reloaded. Let's go. So the judge told the jurors to leave. And the government then said, we need rulings to make summary charts, which is because one of the next witnesses that they're going to be having is going to be a summary witness. So they're going to be explaining a lot of stuff, like with charts and information. I'm assuming that this has to do more so with the RICO. They're going to be kind of be laying it out with the numbers, it sounds like. Then there was this message that was written by Inner City Press. The messages are within the scope of each employee or agent's authority. This is a chat between defendant, KK, Fahim, and Robin, his accountant. Put a 1 in the chat for me if you know what that means. We will redact the first message about the purchase of a Maybach truck. The judge then said, in the back, if people want to leave, they must do this before we start. If you're here now, you should remain until we're done. The judge then said, can we shorten this exhibit and cut out the flowers? The feds then said the flowers referred to 420. Combs' attorney said, that's the first time we heard that. There was also apparently an item talking about paying Guido, who was a substance dealer. And there are 49-page chats and evidence. The judge asked who's going to testify about the flowers. The government said we have 2 witnesses. D-Rock and Fahim and the defendant apparently count $1 million cash by hand. Combs' attorney said it's not clear how relevant to this case is this. The exhibit talks about cash in a safe. It's prejudicial. The government then said Derek Ferguson spoke of millions. This next exhibit is a ledger. It shows substances and romantic partners. Combs' attorney said not authenticated. The judge said this exhibit, the objection is sustained. If foundation is laid, I'll hear it. Diddy's attorney then said the next exhibit is about an alleged victim who is not testifying. They just wanted to portray the defendant as a bad person. The government then said Gina was a romantic partner. So we're talking about Gina now. Although Gina will not be testifying, George Kaplan testified about violence against her. Gina was identified as victim 3. Judge said, I will look back at this. Hopefully this helps with the charts. The government interrupted him. He said, I'm still talking. Agnifilo asked if they could have a bathroom break. The government then said, if we can't resolve the chart, Mr. Sankar or Ms. Sankar can't testify on Monday. KK is in these charts. Okay, Monday. Until 8:30 for letter on juror. Okay. Adjourned. So I know that this is very, it feels a bit choppy because this is rapid tweeting from within the courtroom, but it sounds like there's going to be a lot of exhibits, some of them that are going to be talking about substances. As I said, romantic partners, a lot of money, and the accountants are getting involved. And hopefully, we will find out something about the juror tonight or tomorrow. I'm not sure. So, it looks like Ricola may be getting closer. And with that, that was the recap of the day. Like I said, it was long today. It was long. So, thank you for bearing with me. It was, to me, it was a little bit frustrating because there was so much repetitive information. And it's like, I even saw in the chat some people saying, we've already heard this. We've already heard this. Yeah, because we heard it on direct examination. Then we heard it on cross. Then sometimes we heard it again in recross. And sometimes they just kept going back to these events over and over and over and over again. It was a lot. I am happy that Jane is done. This was a very, very long testimony and cross. And it does sound like the prosecution is winding down. And it does sound like the summary witness is going to be very interesting. I don't have any other information pointing to who are witnesses next. It's the same as what I had yesterday at the end of the recap. So we will continue tomorrow and see what happens. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into this recap. I so appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow with more information on this trial for day 23, Friday, I believe Friday the 13th. Don't know how weird it's going to get. We'll find out. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye, guys.